This is the Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever. The Financial Survival Network.
And welcome. You are listening to and hopefully watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. If my voice sounds a little different, hey, I've been through an ordeal. I spent 7 days in the hospital fighting COVID, and I want to share some of my experiences with you. And I've got my good friend and colleague, Bill Powers, with me here. He was kind of with me every step of the way. We were texting, and I was kind of freewheeling the entire experience as I went through it. It was pretty remarkable. And doing this, I want people to understand exactly what COVID is, how it can affect you, and how to minimize it, how to deal with it in such a way that you don't wind up in the hospital. Because when I look back at the way I handled the initial onslaught of the virus, if I had handled it differently, maybe I would have been in the hospital for a couple of days. Maybe I would have avoided it altogether, but I would have gotten treatment much earlier. And looking around, I was pretty savvy about COVID. I've read mounds and mounds of it. People have accused me of being a COVID denier because I was against shutdowns and I was against lockdowns and mask mandates. And I think the evidence has borne out pretty well that they don't really work very effectively. In Florida, all the counties compared with mask mandates as opposed to those without it, the three most populous counties, the county I live in, Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade, all have mask mandates. Their incidence of COVID infection is actually higher than the remaining highly populated counties of the state that have no mask mandates. The problem is, and what I've objected to about COVID from the beginning, is the lack of science-based, data-driven responses. And instead, we've got politicians all showing how concerned they are, trying to stop the spread of a disease that they can't stop, and pretending that they have power that they don't have, and infringing your rights and my rights as a result. I never said it wasn't serious. I didn't believe I was going to get it, and I was in denial about getting it when I finally did, but I never said that it wasn't dangerous. It's always been dangerous if you have those comorbidities especially, but it could act randomly. The disease is serious. And I'm going to have a talk with Bill. Bill's going to ask me about it. But the one thing I would say is, all of my behavior, my actions in the past 10 months, I would not have changed one single thing, knowing what I know now. I wouldn't have worn a better mask, an N95. I wouldn't have hidden under my bed for the past year, trying to avoid COVID. I wouldn't have gone to restaurants. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone to Miami, where I think I got infected. And I might have altered my behavior in such a way as doing more outdoor restaurants. But for the most part, I would not have changed a thing, knowing what I went through. So anyway, here's Bill. Bill, I really can't thank you enough for coming on. My purpose here is to educate as many of you as possible out there on you might not be able to avoid it. You probably can't, but at least to deal with it in the best possible way and get the best possible outcome like I did.
Yeah, Kerry, I remember calling you about 9 days ago from when we were recording this, the Monday before last. And I was just chatting with you and I had things I wanted to tell you, but then I was like, wait a second, Kerry's voice, it's not his strong baritone radio voice. It sounded a little weak. So then I finally stopped and said, I'm rambling on here, Kerry. Is there something wrong with you? And then you said, yeah, I'm drinking a coffee. I'm going to go get checked out. And later that day, you texted me and you said, they admitted me for COVID to the hospital. And I was like, what? And then I was chatting with my wife and she said, well, Bill, it has to be kind of serious if they admit him to the hospital because not everybody gets admitted, even if they test positive. And so, that was the first alarm for me, Kerry, via our communications that Monday.
Yeah. And Bill, it was funny because I remember when COVID first happened and we're talking, you said, I'm just not going to participate in this. And it kind of struck me. I said, I don't want to participate in it either. I was worried for a day. And then I said, hey, life is very uncertain. I might get it. I might not. I went a long time without getting it. But yeah, it was kind of a shocker because I was taking vitamins, all the recommended vitamins D3, zinc. I was taking HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, figuring that would help. A couple of other supplements and drugs. And, in the end, none of it mattered. I caught it. So maybe I lowered my odds. Maybe I would have caught it before. But the whole thing is, like, I could have done everything they prescribed, never left my house for the past year, right? Never contactless food delivery, all of this. And I still might have gotten it. And if I had gotten it after doing all that stuff, then I wasted 10 months, 11 months in fear where I could have been living my life and, doing what I like to do, enjoying my life. I saw a cliche recently, Bill. It said that happiness is the new wealth, and I don't know if I go quite that far, but I would say if you're not happy, it doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or not. And I've had the intense happiness over the past year that if I was living a life of fear, a fear-based life, I couldn't have ever expected to have. So yeah, you picked up on me. My moods and my energy levels. And hey, it was like the only thing I was sorry that I didn't do, I would have gotten treated 5 days earlier. I had my head in the clouds. I really didn't believe that I would get it.
Kerry, on that point, that perspective of invincibility, do you think that your strong libertarian impulses that you've kind of laid out here, is that something that you might rethink a little just on the front end when you started to see some of those symptoms and you were kind of in denial?
Well, I think the thing is this, like the denial is really bad because none of us want to admit our vulnerabilities. You don't want to admit that you can get sick, even though you can. And this is serious enough. And the time factor is important enough, Bill, that the second you get any glimmer of a symptom, get treated. And like my friend, very close friend, she's had it for a week. She dilly-dallied for 2 or 3 days getting tested. And now she's in the hospital and she's got pneumonia, which is what I had. And so what I've learned is that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to be cautious. The more cautious you are, the better. But look, if you wash your hands every 5 minutes, Bill, or you wash your hands every 3 minutes, it's probably not going to make any difference whatsoever if you get this. But if you're washing your hands regularly, that's a plus. So you got to do everything you can to minimize coming into contact with it. It's probably a good idea if you go to restaurants or do activities, do them outdoors. But you can't do everything outdoors. I'm in Florida. I can do a lot more. You're up north. You can't do it. So libertarianism, not so much. Common sense is that, probably 80% of the people are immune from COVID because everyone would have it now if they weren't. But you don't know which 80% you're a member of. You don't know if you're the 20% that could get it or the 80% that's immune. And I wanted to just assume, wrongly so, that I was immune from it, and I wasn't. So, the experience was an incredibly valuable teacher, though.
Kerry, how do you think that your experience might affect the way you interact with others regarding COVID? Because we all have family members and friends that maybe view it more serious than we do or less serious. And so tensions arises just like via politics in our relationships with family members and friends here, where you don't want to have a fallout because you view things politically different. With COVID, the mask mandates, what is safe, social distancing, all these things. Has your perspective changed at all with how you're going to interact with people that don't have your libertarian view on these things?
Well, everybody's got to do what they think is right for them. And I don't think in this situation, any third party can dictate what's right for you, how you're going to run your life. So I respect if somebody does want to stay inside. My oldest friend, he's really kind of withdrawn, but he's got comorbidities. It's very serious. I totally respect that. It's up to the individual to plot their course, the safest course that they feel that they can live with, that you can live with. And if that involves minimal interchanges with the public at large, so be it. But it's up to everybody to make the decision, but you got to do it based on information and data. And, this kind of runs into the vaccine debate. A lot of people that I talk to, first responders in the hospital, aren't going to get it, but others have. Me, I probably have some immunities now that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I can sit back and wait and let everybody else be the big petri dish for vaccination. But like I said, as responsible individuals, you have to make your own decisions about what risks you have to encounter, what risks you're willing to encounter, and what risks you can't avoid. And then you've got to plot your course. And, I don't blame anybody for this. Maybe the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP virus, but who knows? The jury's out on that. But I think that from my experience, it was really unpleasant. I had a couple of really down days where I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. But, it forced me to see the world completely differently. I've never been, knock on wood, sick a day in my life in the hospital. I had pneumonia when I was in college for a couple of days. It made me look at the people who are doing this work, treating people in the hospitals. Everybody, let's face it, Bill, you all have your own struggle in life. And being able to kind of detach from life for a week and kind of just observe all the other people's struggles around me, because my struggle was to survive. I didn't have any other struggle going on. But I watched these people, and they had families, and they had money problems, and health problems. They had the same problems as the rest of us. So it gave me a perspective on life, and on the fact that there is a higher power that has plans for us, and that it's up to us to make the best of ourselves that we possibly can, and do the most with our God-given talents and qualities and advantages, of which we have so many that we just don't appreciate so much during the course of a day.
Yeah, that's great, Kerry. So how is this going to affect you and the Financial Survival Network moving forward?
Well, I'm not looking at changing anything directly, but I feel like I've got more of a connection. We were talking earlier, Bill, I got hundreds and hundreds of emails from people I haven't heard from in years who watch or listen to the show when they heard about it, and comments on the YouTube channel. It was remarkable. So I think I want to appreciate more of the community that I've built here, that you and I have built, with so many thousands, tens of thousands of people all over the world. It's really humbling that we can have this kind of outsized impact. And I don't feel power or anything like that, just that people actually don't even know me and they care about how I'm doing. It really touches your soul, and it makes you realize that, it made me realize that I got a lot of work to do. And I'm not about to ease up. I'm easing up for the next week because the doctors said, you got to take it easy. And, I had pneumonia, so breathing can be a little challenging at times. But other than that, it's a recommitment towards my soul's purpose and towards what I've been doing for the past 10 years to help as many people as we can get through what are, becoming more and more obviously very trying, very challenging, and very perhaps even dangerous times, Bill.
Well, Kerry, I know I speak for many, and many of those listeners already emailed you and messaged you, but I wasn't ready to leave you yet. And I still think you have a lot of purpose. And, thank you for the contribution you made to my life, and just for what you do and the content you produce that, touches thousands of people that you'll never meet in person, but it reaches them. So we're glad you're back, Kerry.
Hey, and it's great to be back. And thanks so much for coming on and having this conversation with me. And if we can help a few people out there who might not have otherwise gone to a doctor until it was either too late or to the point where they had to get more strict, stringent treatment, then we've done an amazing job. And I thank you for that, Bill.
Yes. Thanks, Kerry.
The Financial Survival Network.